Come on, give it to me.
Thank you for joining us on Bole the podcast. I'm Chaku Vadaketh, and I am excited to be talking to one of the bright young talents making waves in the Malaysian music scene with his compositions as an audio engineer and with his cool fusion band, Nadir. You've just heard some of their music performing at the Borneo Jazz Festival with a piece called Synthesia. And we'll be talking more about that in a little while. Now, joining me to talk to the musician, who is, of course, Ashwin Gobinath, is one of his big fans, Dato Ambiga Srinivasan.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Bole, the podcast. And hi, Ashwin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi. Glad to be here. Quite excited for this.
We're excited as well, Ashwin. I think I've known you for many years and I've worked with you, doing voiceovers and stuff, but it's the first time I've really listened to your work and we're so excited. At Synthesia at the Borneo Jazz Festival, tell us a little bit about it.
So Synesthesia is one of the tracks from our first album. It's our album it's also the title track of our album, and basically synesthesia is this condition where you have a crossover of your senses. So some people see colors. Some people hear sounds while seeing colors. That kind of thing. So rather than, I think we really resonated with that idea also because a couple of us in the band have synesthesia. We sort of perceive sound and certain frequencies via a certain color, and we see it manifest visually, right? Yeah. So I thought that would have been a great title for the album because it kind of represents everything we are doing with our music also. We're crossing boundaries, sensorial boundaries of such.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so Synesthesia, the song, was one of the first songs we wrote together as a band, and it really represented that idea because if you listen to the song from the start to finish, it takes you on a massive journey through many different styles and tempos and things like that,
And we see you, we chose a segment where we could see you on the drums because that's your forte, right? The drums.
Yeah.
Apart from being a composer. So that was great to see you. And I'm glad we got because the climax is just so exciting. Everything comes together.
It just builds and builds and builds.
A little bit of history about Ashwin. Okay, so Ashwin, is music in your blood?
I'd say, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've always gravitated towards it. And even until today, I fall asleep with music, you know what I mean? So I'd say it pretty much is.
Right.
I built my whole career around it. So
fantastic. But how did it all start? You're a Penang boy, Ash. A lot of talented Penang people. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so basically, growing up, of course, and when you're young, you always want to do different things when you grow up, you want to be an astronaut, you want to be a doctor, this and that. I think because growing up, I used to hear a lot of music from different places. My parents used to play a lot of music at home. Um, so my dad he used to play a lot of jazz, a lot of funk, a lot of world music. Yeah, big bunch of different things, rock, and then I think when I was in Form One, when I was 13 in Penang, I joined the school band, the marching band,
This is
and I
Penang
was
Free School,
actually
right?
yes, yeah, Penang Free School, and I've actually picked saxophone at first, and after I think about 2 or 3 attempts at the instrument, I realized no, it's not for me. I I was as much more interested in drums, and yeah, so I joined the drum section, and then things progressed from there. Just kept going on, and eventually I started my own sort of rock band, and we started performing in Penang in different places and some gigs. And I guess the natural progression of that was that, yeah, I love playing music. I love music of all kinds. Of course, when I was 13, I went through the whole phase of, the Backstreet Boys, the Westlife, and the pop stuff that everybody used to go through and love. And eventually, I think I'd say my taste in music sort of refined a bit more as I got older. And and then, yeah, I mean, that pretty much explains how where I come from musically.
Right. So, did you take music lessons and piano lessons? The usual things that parents do
I
for their
think,
children.
yeah, I don't think I remember much of the piano lessons, to be honest.
Well, I
But
spoke to somebody who does. I just spoke to your
yeah,
mom yesterday, and I
yeah,
feel all that, your mom is my friend. So looking at you, I'm
yeah,
feeling a bit old right here. But she was saying, your parents tried to take you to piano classes and things,
hmm,
but you weren't really interested. And it's only
hmm,
when you went into Penang Free School and joined the band, and she says she just saw how committed you were,
yeah,
and how excited you were by the music that and later, I think she was saying, there was talk of you maybe doing medicine and things, but
mm,
you had your heart set on music, and then because of your commitment to the school band, I think your parents felt, okay, this is what you should do.
yeah, yeah. Or that, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think as the school band thing sort of progressed further, I I think maybe I was too young to sort of see how I could have made a career out of it, out of playing music, because I think from an early age I never had the delusion, I'd say, that I was gonna be a rock star, I was gonna make it big as a musician, and I don't think I would have wanted that also. But then, because my dad also used to design speakers and
Yeah.
do, yeah, bits of things like that, and I was very much also interested in the audio side of things. And then they introduced me to SAE, this college, in Byron Bay, and I was like, yeah, let's do it, definitely. It's audio engineering, so that was the
Is
other
that
side of the
what
music
does SAE
in the
stand for? Is that
School of Audio Engineering.
okay?
Yeah,
That's one of the top
so
schools. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
pretty much, yeah. And learning the flip side of the music, or rather how to make music, how to produce the music, that was very, very interesting to me. And it's very hard for me to say which I am, like which sort of person I am. Am I a musician or am I an audio engineer? Because they're both equally at 100%.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
So really, your audio engineering, that was the right move, clearly,
yeah, yeah,
and that's helped with your music
definitely,
and production
definitely.
of music.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. Ash. So over to you, Chaco.
Well, I was just curious because you said School of Audio Engineering in Byron Bay, and actually that's affiliated to Middlesex, right? Middlesex University
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
UK.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yes, another thing your mum said was that on your graduation day at Middlesex in London was the same
Yeah.
day that A.R. Rahman got his doctorate from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true. We missed out. We missed out on that. Because I think he was in the
no, but
he
it was on
came
the
in the
same day that
morning
he went in
and
the morning and yours was in the afternoon
yeah,
or something.
yeah. Mine was the
And what
afternoon
was it like
session.
being in Byron Bay? I mean, that's like Bohemian Central, right?
Oh man, Byron Bay is Bohemian hippie central, and I guess at that time, it was a great place. It's definitely a great place to discover yourself as a person, and also to because you see, with audio engineering, it's not like your regular like when you're studying for, let's say, medicine or engineering in that sense. There's not much hunkering down and reading books nonstop. It's it's got a lot of practical elements to it, like you're spending a lot of time in the studio, learning your equipment, and there's of course physics involved and stuff like that. But I think I spent a lot of time in the studios and recording artists that I meet around town, or things like that. So in that sense, the environment was perfect for me, because as studious as I once was, I think at that stage of my life, I quite kind of had enough of books. But yeah, that came back to bite me in the ass, because my degree, when I was doing my degree, it was a whole load of research and spending a lot of time reading.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, so
Yeah,
it sort of backfired. You thought you were escaping reading, and you had to
yeah,
do.
but it was good, because it was very intense. It's 50 weeks a year, the course.
Wow.
So the diploma was in 1 year, and then the honors degree was the next year. And so that whole diploma stage was a lot of practical work, a lot of working in the labs and in the studios, and recording as many people as I could, and doing all those things. And then the next year was very nice, because I got to we learned a lot about like cultural arts. We learned a lot about the legal side of things, and I guess it was a nice natural progression.
And so coming
Yeah.
back to put KL from Australia,
Hmm.
um, how did you start your working life?
So when I came back, um, I think personally I had done some research into the scene, so to say, in KL, and at that point, Penang was going through a bit of a rough spell, or a lull in the arts,
Okay.
and there wasn't much music going on. There wasn't really a lot of arts going on in Penang. Things were just kind of stale and dying. And KL was at that point very vibrant in terms of the music scene and the art scene. So I got a job at Astro,
Okay.
and yeah, so I joined Astro Radio at that point. It was called AMP Radio Networks,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, I worked as a production engineer. So I was there for 3 years, roughly 3 years, and that was an insane first sort of job. Even though I had already interned and worked under Freddie Fernandez at Beta Rex prior
Okay.
to that, yeah, but this was a much much more fast-paced environment, and constantly working under pressure every minute. So that I think that was a very good stepping stone, as Astro is for most people.
Okay.
You go in there, you learn how to deal with politics, you learn how to deal with Yeah,
Oh,
as we all
not
know.
there too. Not there too.
But yeah, it's a great place to learn, because if you can handle the pressure there, and like getting work that comes in at 6 on the dot when you're just about to leave, and then you have to get it out by 6:15, things like that. Yeah, you get really adept at working really fast, but also putting out quality content at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So
And
yeah, that's pretty much what.
then you started
Yeah,
professionally as a sessionist, right, for artists and bands.
yeah, yeah. So at that
That's
point, I started also performing with my friend Ray, and we were playing all around KL and just doing small acoustic gigs at first, and eventually, I we met this guy called Zaim, who's a bassist, who is my current bassist in Nadir, my
okay.
band. And yeah, we formed that working relationship there, and I started sort of playing with other artists who needed a drummer, and just your cover song gigs and performing the 2-3 set gigs every night kind of thing in lots of different places. And
And
that was
well, the
some.
who's who of the music world, right? Dasha Logan and
Yeah,
Hannah
yeah,
Moore
yeah.
and Curtis, and yeah. So,
Yeah.
And
any
jingles. Yeah.
memorable events or funny moments or something from performing
Ooh,
or from
man.
your audio engineering world?
I think the problem is most of it are funny moments, so they've just become the norm for me. But I think definitely one. I think I can say that the type of people that I've worked with and collaborated with, um, you 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 never know what to expect, and you never know who you're gonna meet. Like, I think recently something that happened about 3 or 4 years ago was, I we had this job recording vocals here in my studio, right? Just for this
Okay.
theme song for a movie. And it's it was supposed to be like a simple, like 2 or 3 people coming here, and the producer, this and that, and then the guy who was singing the song. And what ended up happening was, at like 9 p.m. at night, there were about 20 people in my house. It seemed
Wow.
like the entire production of the movie came here. And then Dato Ramli MS shows up. And Dato Ramli MS is, he was the headmaster of Academy Fantasia, right?
Yes.
Oh,
And he's such a top tier sort of character in the
icon.
industry. Yeah, and he's just at my house. Nobody even told me, and I'm just like, "What are you doing here?" I and he ends up giving this massive lecture to the singer on how he should just focus on being an actor because he can't sing.
Oh,
Yeah, it was. And me and my one of my partners in my company, we're just sitting here and just like,
Oh.
and we
so
didn't
so
end up
so more
recording anything.
more happening around you.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell us about Nadir. How did Nadir start?
Okay, so Nadir basically was a culmination of me and a couple of other bandmates being really annoyed and jaded with the music industry. We had been playing together in other bands, and uh, at that point, it was me, my singer Rashdan Harith back then, and my bassist Zaim, and my keyboardist Steph. And we we just got tired of playing songs that other people wanted to hear, but not us. And we sort of got a bit tired of the rules in terms of how you write music and how you market your music, and what kind of music people want to hear. And so, to me, it was I think it's time we moved on and started something. So I started the band Nadir, and I got together the people I knew who felt the same way about music and stuff like that. So I got together these five or six guys and girls, and the concept behind Nadir was very simple. It's just no rules, no genre limitations, and no boundaries. So anything goes, absolutely anything. You want to mix jazz with a polka, that's fine. You want to,
Wow.
do
Fantastic
we
music,
can do,
right?
yeah, you can do absolutely anything as long as we don't limit ourselves, and we constantly explore new ideas, new concepts, and never try and cater to any single audience, but always cater to ourselves first. Yeah, I guess you could say it was selfish of us, but we wanted to write music for us, music that we would listen and go, "Whoa, that's pretty cool."
Well, it's certainly,
uh,
I think Ambika and I both love the music.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And just tell us a little bit about the name Nadir. What made you choose that name?
So I I came up with the name Nadir because I think if to the uninitiated, they'd asked, a lot of people have asked me like, "Hmm, is that a Malay guy's name?" you know and the thing is, what's funny is Nadir has so many different meanings in so many different languages, but in English Nadir means the lowest point from a celestial observer, or figuratively it means like the lowest point in someone's life, and to me that resonated on that one point, was because at that point musically all of us in the band were at a very very low point. We were just tired and jaded, and we didn't know if we wanted to do music anymore and things like that. And then
What year was that?
also,
Sorry, what year
sorry.
was that? What year was that?
Oh, I think that would have been somewhere 2015, 20, yeah, somewhere around 2015.
That's what our research notes say, 2015. Thank you,
Yeah,
Khadija.
yeah. I might have my dates wrong because it's been so long, but yeah, somewhere there. And but the thing we realized after was also that Nadir has so many different meanings, as I said, right? But in Malay, Nadir means rare. It means unique, and then in Arabic, Nadir means my beloved. uh, so
Lovely.
there are all these different interpretations of the word Nadir, and apparently it also means it's also a Malay boy's name, right? As people have come up and said to me like, "Hey, kenapa ah?" Yeah, but I love that idea because it's such a short and simple name that and there's eight of us in the band, and you think that it would be called like the connection of eight or something, big name, big fancy name, but we wanted just a simple, straightforward name that people would remember straight away.
It's
So
unusual enough that you want to think like, what does that mean? I think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
you think
exactly.
about
Yeah. And yeah, so that's why Nadir. And I think we were a bit unsure at first, but it worked out well.
it.
Great.
Tell us a little bit about what each of your band members have. They're specialized in something, or they bring different elements. And just give a quick overview, because I know there's
Yeah.
like Carnatic
Introduce
music
your band.
here,
Yeah.
Malay, and
All right. So yeah, so in Nadir there are eight of us, and there's me on drums.
Mhm.
There's Zaim Zaidi on bass. There's Farik Nazir on guitar, electric guitar, and vocals. That's the funny thing about us. We don't have no, we have a lead singer, but many other members of the band also sing
Yes.
in different songs. That's another way we don't limit ourselves.
And you never know
But
what to expect, right? Each song is so
yeah,
different because different people are leading.
exactly. So we have Santosh Logandran on percussions and Carnatic vocals. We have Stephanie Tam on keyboards and Lopik Sim on keyboards also. And we have Adele Johan on saxophone. Dr. Adil Johan, he'd want me to say. He's not a medical doctor. Yeah. And then to top it all off, we have Beverly Matuja on vocals. She's also known as Maya Bayu because she has her own solo career as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the eight of us. And yeah, that's eight of us. There's of course the extended family, which go up to about 20, and other musicians that come in and play with us sometimes and things like that. But the main members are the eight of us.
That's the core. And something we were excited about is you've been collaborating with Zainal Abidin, and you actually did your own version of his iconic hijab.
Oh, I know, tak le merasa mandilau bersaing main gambar-gambar alelo ni tua umurnya berjuta kita usah jauh ke dari mana petaka.
Yeah. So I think that came about in a very funny, interesting way. We had a show at the Borneo International Jazz Festival, right? In Kuching, Yeah, I think that was in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, 2017 or 2018. Yeah, somewhere around there. And so we were the headlining act for the Sunday, and Zainal Abidin was the headlining act for the Saturday, But when we arrived there, of course, we arrived early and we were there for sound check. So we were doing sound check on the Saturday, and I think Zainal was also in the crowd waiting for his sound check, but I don't think any of us realized he was there. We were just doing our sound check and like, yeah, let's do a sound check, then we can go back to the room. So we did a sound check, and after the sound check, as we were packing up, somebody came up to me and said, "Hi, are you Ashwin, the band leader?" And it's like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Zainal Abidin wants to meet you," and I'm like, "Oh, Zainal's here, okay." And so when we went up to him, had a chat, really chilled out chat, nothing formal or anything. And he's like, "Hey, I really like your stuff. You guys are doing something very unique. We really need to work together and collaborate on something." And so we started talking, and he was like, "Yeah, we should write a song together, an original song." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a great idea. By the way, did you know that we also cover your song Hijau, and we've done our own version of it?" And he's like, "Oh, really? Okay, I like to hear this." And then I think the idea started spinning in his head, and he was like, "Yeah, we should release this as Hijau 2.0, for the modern sort of world." And yeah, so from there, what we did was we worked on the song a bit more, finessed it a bit more, and then recorded a demo for him. And yeah, and from there he heard the demo and he loved it, and we were supposed to record his vocals and then get the song out and release it as Nade featuring Zainal and Zainal featuring Nade on his album, things like that. But of course, a lot of things came in between the scheduling and stuff, but the main thing was COVID, of course. So we're still working on it, and as soon as we have the time to finish up the vocals, I think we should be putting it out officially within the next year, or two. Yeah.
Can't wait for that. Can't wait for that,
Yeah.
Ash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
But I have a question for you about
Mm-hmm.
fusion music, because obviously,
Yeah.
would you describe yourself as that? Um,
Mm, Nadir's type of fusion is ethno progressive fusion.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize there was that definition, because when you
I
look
think
at,
we made it up.
you made it up, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. Because when you
Mhm.
talk about fusion, normally it's a couple of genres, but yours has got so many different
Yeah.
genres, right?
Orgy
And
of fusion, really.
All the
yes,
genres basically.
multi, it's all. But
Yeah.
one of them stands out for me only because I know very little about, a little bit about
Hmm.
Carnatic music, because that to
Okay.
me was something that was very different.
Hmm.
Normally, what they use in Carnatic music, from Carnatic music or classical Indian music, would
Yeah.
be, for example, Northern Indian would be sitar,
Hmm.
tabla, and it's the percussion and the music. But you use the voice. Now that to me is really, really interesting, and what a voice Santosh has.
Yeah.
So could
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about him, how
Uh,
you got him into your
hmm.
band, and is he North Indian or South Indian classical? I'm just
Okay.
Carnatic. I'm just curious. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, what happened was when I first started the band, when we were just starting out within the first few months, at that point, I was working in a company called Imaginex Studios.
I know
And
that place well.
yeah,
Yeah, Shako knows that.
yeah. And Santosh had just finished his internship at the company and he had joined us as a full time staff. And so um, in the first 3 months that he was there, so I was just getting him up to speed with how everything works and training him a bit on certain things. So every time I was out of the studio or walking past or something, I'd hear him singing to himself and like tapping on the table and stuff like that. And I knew he had come from the world of the Temple of Fine Arts and the
Mm.
classical world. And we'd always tease him like, oh, you don't know who Rage Against the Machine is, or you don't know any modern bands and stuff. Because I think at that point his exposure to Western music was very limited, and he he mainly listened to classical Indian music. And so, but to me that was a very, very interesting uh, idea that I sort of just came up with on the fly. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to just slot that into our music in random places? And um, also the fact that he was a good percussionist. He played tabla, he plays mridangam, he plays congas, and he that I think that was his sort of forte also. So I think after a few months, one day I just asked him, "Hey, you want to join my band?"
So you met him in that
And
place. Gosh.
I
Yeah.
actually met him maybe about 5 years prior to that incident.
But this
I
whole
had actually
collaboration
met
came
him.
up.
Yeah, but it was just a like hi bye kind of thing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, Santosh, hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, that's it. But
Well, because I used to go in to do voiceovers, and either Ashwin or Santosh would be the audio engineer, but I
yeah,
never knew all this sort of creative
exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
thing behind the scenes.
yeah. So then what happened was I told him to like come and have a few jam sessions with us and see how you feel, and don't be afraid that you don't know you or you're not that exposed to Western music. It's fine because what we are trying to do is blend everything together, and frayed edges, whatever, it's okay. So let's just do it first and see what happens. So he came in, and I think that sort of stamped the cultural fusion mark on the band, with him coming in and providing the classical vocals and just a different mindset, really, rather than than just your traditional sort of how song structures are made. You know, you have your verse, chorus, bridge, last chorus kind of thing. So we decided to just change that whole concept. I mean, we still follow that with some songs, but with Senja, for example, one of our songs, um, the first part of the song is you have that sort of traditional format, right? Your verse, chorus, and then we have this long section where the format just goes all over the world, and right at the end it comes back with one chorus. You know, so because his addition really allowed us to sort of go a bit nuts with the arrangement of the songs.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, really nice. So, yeah, go ahead, Chaco.
Well, I just thought because there's so much to talk about, we should
I
move
know.
on to your. You've told us that your bread and butter often is your work with films, composing the scores and doing the audio engineering for it.
Yeah.
And Ambika and I have both been excited about your short film that won many awards at the BMW Shorties in 2017. Called
Yeah, Salam 2.0. Yeah.
Tell us, that's this very gritty, urban, what concrete jungle kind of film,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
music perfectly reflects that. How did you come up with that?
So I think to tell the story of Salam, I have to sort of start at the beginning a bit. So I started Nadia Studios, the company Nadia Studios, as a record label arm for the band, and eventually we produced the first album for the band, Synesthesia, and people started, taking notice, and then they started coming to us. And my forte is also sound engineering and sound designing for film, post production, that kind of stuff. And I had worked with the director of Salam 2.0. Her name's Law Yu Mian,
Okay.
and yeah, I had worked with her on her previous short films, and just helping her out with it, just doing a bit of the sound, cleaning it up and stuff like that. But she's an old friend of mine from back in the day, so every time she has any work, she'd come to me. So then I told her that, I started my company, let's, if you have anything, let me know. And she goes like, hey, yeah, I'm working on this short film called Salam. And so I got the film. I had a look at it, and it's this post-apocalyptic world that she's built. Great story, great simple idea, and she wanted, and this time she wanted the whole shebang, music and sound design and everything else, the full production. So I was like, great, let's do it. And basically, because she was very clear about what she wanted in terms of the style. She wanted this very industrial sort of feel that matches the scene. So it made things very easy for me also. So I just my influences were, I guess, Nine Inch Nails and things like that, and I just put whatever I could into it, and it was a passion project for me also, not just for her, and for the rest of the team. Everybody was great on that, and so I did that. And
Salam, senyap, selamat.
Salam, senyap, selamat.
and she applied. She put that in for BMW Shorties Awards, and next thing you know, it was nominated for all the awards, and
Wow.
I
Really?
think, yeah, I think we won most of all but one category that we were nominated in, and I won the best sound for BMW Shorties for that film.
Wow,
Yeah,
congratulations. Yeah, that's
yeah. Thanks.
superb, actually. Acting was
Yeah.
brilliant as well, by the way. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Superb.
And
So, yeah. Ash, could you just maybe explain, just going back to your band, just one
mhm,
question I forgot to ask, which is
yeah.
the process, because the process by which you create your music. Could you
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about that? Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've had many different processes throughout the years. You know,
So there's no process.
we've tried so many different things just to see what happens. So, but I think the we work our best when everyone comes into the rehearsal space and we try out different ideas. Like
So it's
if
very
someone has a,
collaborative, is it?
yeah, like it's very collaborative. Like an example I give you is synesthesia. So
Mhm.
Santosh had this vocal line that he was like, "Hey, let's try this out. Let's see what happens." And it was the vocal line from synesthesia, which is sani pa ma ga sa sani pa ma ga ni sa ga ma pa ni sa ga ma pa ni sa ga na 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 da da da. So he had just that idea, and then from there we we were like, okay, 1 2 3, just go, and everybody just plays anything that they think would
Wow.
work, right, based around a particular beat, for example. So and and then we just jam it out, we just take it spontaneously to where it feels natural to go to. And sometimes the song itself that we did at that moment would be 30 minutes long, 40 minutes long, because it's a jam, it's a massive jam that just goes. And then from there what we do is we go back home, we have a listen to the whole thing, and we pick out the parts that were really interesting or really cool, and sort of trim the fat a bit more, and then bring that closer together. And then from there we have a very rough structure of the song. And then it's a refining process. Then we go into the studio, and then we try it out again, try different ideas and refine that, and eventually we get to this bulk of a song that we feel is like, oh, this is awesome, this is what we want. And yeah, that has been our main process for a while. But of course it's different according to what we are trying to achieve. If, let's say, because everybody is different, everybody's unique in how they write songs. So sometimes, let's say, a keyboardist has an idea for a song, the way she writes, it might be a bit more flushed out. She might have a structure in mind already. So then the process is similar, but we sort of have a better structure there. So it's not as wild. So the jam wouldn't be like half an hour. It will probably be like 10 minutes, things like that. And then the process repeats again. We sort of refine it, build upon it, and build it up. And sometimes down the road, like a year down the road, after playing the song for countless times, we'd we'd go back and revisit it and add in different things and change different parts or do things like that, refresh ideas and things like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's
Mhm.
it must be a lot of fun, but a lot of work as well.
The In the music business, as I understand, the top five careers, as it were, in the music
Mhm.
business is as a music producer, recording engineer, and session musician,
Mhm.
and then composer, arranger. Okay,
Okay.
so you're all of them, aren't you? More or less.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Cover
I
all
call
of
that
them.
I call that diversifying.
Diverse. That's really excellent.
Yeah.
But explain to us, or to people, our listeners, what is a session musician?
Okay, so a session musician is a musician who, like, okay, most of the times, like let's take Aerosmith for example. Steven Tyler, he's the lead singer
Yes,
of Aerosmith,
correct.
and everybody knows him as the lead singer of Aerosmith. He wouldn't play with another band, because that's his thing. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, let's say Aerosmith, there are four or five of them, um, but they also have musicians, extra musicians in the back who provide the extra instrumentation that is required when they perform live. Like, let's say a piano player who plays the piano parts. That's a session pianist. You know what I mean? Things like that. So a session musician is someone, a musician for hire, who comes in and performs together with a particular artist, or because not every artist out there or band has the full range of instrumentation required. So let's say you're a singer, you need a band, but you don't necessarily always have to have the same band. You'd want to work with different musicians for different styles that you're doing, for example. So session musicians are great because, let's say you need a guitarist for a show. You can call a session musician who's very quick and very well versed in most types of genres and things like that. So a session musician comes in, they have either charts or they make their own charts, and they're very dependable and reliable to get your music out there. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you've played for other bands, many other bands as well, then.
Yeah, I've played for different artists and bands.
Artists.
Yeah, so mostly people like, I guess, Bichu,
Yeah.
Oh,
Priscilla Xavier.
right. Okay. So to COVID now,
Mhm.
Ash, you wrote a lament, I would call it actually, a very
Yeah,
well written piece in the Malaysia Kini in
yeah,
2020,
yeah.
According to
and
his
this was
mother,
a
he was writing before the age of 3. So
wow.
he was,
Well, it's
he was a prodigy writer
really
as
well
well.
articulated. Fantastic. Well, it shows. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
and your letter is entitled "No One Can Survive in a World Without Art." And
Yeah,
I
Wow.
think your lament was, whilst we can't survive without the arts, and sometimes we all don't realize it, we have failed to give it sufficient importance. I think that was one of the things you were very concerned about.
yeah.
And I think Adil also wrote a supporting article to that. And if I
Hmm.
could just summarize, what you felt was that during COVID, everyone forgot about the performers, the musicians,
Hmm.
and the artists.
Yeah,
And even apart from that, there's never sufficient funding. There are not enough music festivals, not enough avenues, despite music and arts being food for the soul, as it were. So,
yeah.
could you just articulate what were the frustrations you felt that made you write that article?
I think a lot of us in the art scene have known this for a long time, that the basically all of us have been taken for granted by the government and most your commercial sector in that sense. But the fact is, we've constantly kept going on. We've got constantly continued surviving, and but COVID came, and COVID was such a monumental shift in how everybody works, how everybody functions, how everybody lives. It upended everybody's lives in more ways than one. And I think that really brought to light the fact that not just people in the arts, but so many other non-essential sectors, um, how how unimportant they seemed to the people in power, you know. And
Mm,
the I mean, it it what was frustrating was that after all this while, when the art scene brings in so much money for the government, right? Like, you suddenly you just stopped caring about it. And I think a lot of people echoed that sentiment in the sense that, like, oh, we can't work anymore, we can't do anything anymore, we can't go out and run events. And keep in mind, events are a huge part of the tourism industry,
Yes.
and then to be clumped up by Nancy Shukri back then, she put out a statement saying that, the whole band, you can just do a band competition or sing in hotels
It'll
and
be an
things like
online
that.
show, right?
Yeah, she sort of devalued the work that everybody had put in over the past, and
Mm.
that just made a lot of us. Basically, what I wrote was just a lamentation and response to that. It started off as that, but then when you're writing, it just keeps going and going and going.
Oh, yes, it did. It did actually, but it
Yeah.
was very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And thank you for voicing the frustration that many in the entertainment and arts industry feel.
yeah. The bad part about it was that the thing is, everybody knows this. Everyone knows that they need arts. Like I said in the article, like everyone needs to de-stress, let's say, by listening to music or watching a movie, and they don't realize how important it is for their sanity. And without, it's
Yeah,
it's
they
so
don't.
easy to sideline the arts, but eventually, at that point, the frustration was, you're going to realize how important this is, and by sidelining these people and this community, you are essentially ruining lives, not just for the people involved, but for the secondary market and
The
people
audience,
who,
right?
yeah, the audience. And
Public at
Yes,
large.
no,
like
correct.
KLPAC is a very good example. KLPAC
Yes,
nearly ended because
yes,
of COVID, and the funny thing is, the arts industry, in terms of SOPs and dealing with the aftermath of COVID, the arts industry and the events industry were the guys who had constantly maintained SOPs, who were diligently following the SOPs and making sure that everything was perfect and everything went according to plan. And in fact, I think the event industry people are way more equipped at handling things like the vaccination process, and with all the help needed and things like that, because they're used to that. They're used to handling massive crowds, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, but the government failed to see that they could have used the people in the arts to help with rehabilitating the country, but instead what they did
yeah,
was just sideline everyone.
Or
yeah.
treated very
They were not.
unfairly. I think
Yeah.
Fala Abdul wrote about coming to a meeting from Penang to KL to find out about the SOPs when theaters were opening up before this last lockdown.
Mhm.
And she sat on a train which was packed. Every seat
Yeah.
was taken. So you're sitting shoulder to shoulder. Then you
Yeah.
arrive here and you're told when you open a theater, you have to have 2 seats between
Yes,
each person. So it's only
I read
30%.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you make ends meet,
Yeah.
But I
Mm.
just two follow-up questions to that, Ash. Um,
Yeah.
Number one, are you or in any way affected by our ridiculous censorship laws? And number two, do you think the formation of an arts council may be possibly an answer
Okay,
to the
so question one, I think any creative in the industry is always going to be affected by censorship, because we don't live in a country where we have freedom of expression. It's only freedom up to a certain extent, right? And
Mm,
I personally don't think censorship is bad, but I don't think censorship is regulated correctly in this country. No, not at all. Like, you obviously, in some ways, certain things there needs to be checks and balance. But in terms of art, I don't think censorship works at all, because somebody somewhere is always going to be hurt by what you say or what you do. even if you have the best of intentions, like yeah,
And
sorry,
if you're shining a spotlight on society, which is what many artists do, you
yeah,
may not like
people
the,
are gonna be
but censorship in a way is trying to shove that under the carpet. And
exactly. I feel because also not only shining a light, but art is also a mirror to society, right? Art is
Absolutely.
showing you what you might not realize about yourself or your society or your community. Yeah. And the moment
Exactly.
that happens, a lot of people will find themselves not liking what they see in the mirror. Yeah.
Well put, actually. And an arts council?
yes,
Uh, and in terms of an arts council, there's been so many that have been set up, and everyone keeps talking about, we have this arts council, we have that, we have this body, we have this panel of people. And in the end, you can't, it feels that way. It feels as though like it's always going to be masked by the corruption or by, being controlled by the government or things like that. So to truly have an arts council, it needs to be independent of the government. One, I feel personally, and two, I think it needs to have support. It needs a spotlight on it, an international spotlight on it. You know, which in itself is a selfish thing to say, because like who's if, like if you have collaborations with other countries, let's say Norway, for example,
Mm.
the no you to have that international collaboration between countries, that itself is shining a spotlight on Malaysia, right? And I think the more we are able to sort of build those connections with other countries and make that spotlight even bigger here, then I
Yes.
think a panel or a arts council that is regulated by ourselves, the artists, and not by the government, then I think that would apply, and that would work
be
really
a
well.
combination, but you have to have people from the industry on the council. Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. But
In
then
fact,
that
you
also
see,
begs the question of the higher up you are in the industry, the more you don't want to lose your place in the industry, you see.
yeah,
I feel it needs to
limited
be,
terms.
yeah,
so,
it needs to be
so
really
have
fair.
representation from a cross section of the industry, not just
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
heads of each profession.
Well,
exactly. Because it never happens that way. You always get the top guys being the top guys in this whatever you set up. So, but that defeats the purpose. It defeats the point. You need representation from the lowest common denominator
That's a
in the
very
field. Yeah.
excellent point. So, Ashwin,
yeah.
moving on, we should tell us about plans for yourself and for Nadir. What can we look forward to?
Okay, so Nadir, right now we are recording our second album,
Right.
and we were very lucky to get support by Chandana. We applied for a grant, and we got the grant from Chandana. So Chandana's supporting us on this.
That's great.
Yeah, and so the album is called Antara Suara,
Oh,
and yeah, and
Nice.
it's going to be released in July next year, and it's a 13-song album. So we're quite happy about that. 13 full songs.
Wow.
Yeah, we're a bit old school that way, lah. We like doing long albums with long songs. And so that's that for Nadir. In terms of live shows, we're not so sure what's going to happen because the live scene is very slowly opening up.
it's still a
So
limit. Huh?
yeah, so as it goes along, we'll see what happens. But of course, we'd love to start performing again, start performing live and going on tours and things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're looking forward to this
Please
next
let us
album.
know when there's a date fixed, and
Yeah,
the
definitely.
Malay team will come to watch you.
Nice.
Tell me, Ash, were you creating during COVID? I mean, your process involved all of you in a studio, but was there
Hmm.
any way in which you all were creating in your own homes, but online or
Yeah.
something?
So at the start, when the first lockdown was implemented, of course, it was a bit of a bummer for all of us because we couldn't go into a studio, and all of us had had that sort of way of working. But I think we started to sort of improvise and change the way we work. And so KKMM approached us with this online showcase called Music Dari Rumah, which we did last year. And it was basically, we recorded 5 songs, but all from home. So there's 8 of us,
Nice.
everyone recorded from their own homes, you see. And so we managed to work out that concept of working, and we got all those together, got all the songs together, and we could work remotely that way.
Hijau
Um,
is done like that, isn't it? Wasn't that how
sorry.
Hijau? Hijau, your
Yeah, Hijau was the recording for Hijau that we released on YouTube was done that way. Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Each of you are in.
And yeah, or each of us in our own homes recording and then sending it over to me, and then I collate everything together and work on it that way. But in terms of creating, it's been a bit of a struggle trying to adapt to it, because we're so
Yeah,
dependent on each other in the band. We're so
Yeah.
dependent on feeding off that energy, the chemistry, the
exactly.
vibe. Yeah. But
Yeah,
the good news is now, since things have opened up, we can go into the studio again. And yeah, we're gonna start going into the studio in a few days.
Excellent.
So yeah,
good. Oh, good.
That's good to hear. But one thing we know that you definitely did was our jingle, the Bole podcast
oh yeah,
jingle,
yeah,
Yes.
right? The intro,
Our
everyone
intro
should
and
know.
outro.
Okay,
yeah.
so here I want you to spill the beans on Chaco, okay,
Mm.
Ash. So it's Chaco. It's Chaco who tortured you, as I understand it. Yeah. So would you like to tell us about that process?
Humbly.
Honestly, I think with Chaco dogging me about the jingle and how it should sound and all that, I rate him at about a 1.5 compared to other people who have been real dictators.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Chaco was a very tame beast.
But
Thank
it's
you.
such a we love it. We love it so much,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ash, and I think
And we
everyone should know
wanted
that
that
you did that.
Malaysian sound, but it had
Mm.
to
Yes.
be hip and fun and
Yeah.
contemporary, but with that Malaysian flavor, which I think you got perfectly. So,
Cool.
and
Cool. Glad you like it.
viewers heard it at the beginning, and they'll hear it again right at the end of this podcast. And
Nice.
I think we really need to wrap up. We could talk
Mhm.
on and on and on, but we'd like to close this interview with one of Nadir's, I think, iconic pieces called Nafas. And perhaps you could tell us a little bit about Nafas, how it came about, and who's involved in
Okay,
it.
so Nafas is a song written by our guitarist's wife, Adah Kahir, and our guitarist is Farik Nazir. And it's basically the song came about because Adah's brother-in-law passed away due to liver cancer.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so the song itself is about that situation and it's written in 3 points of view. One is from the wife's point of view, the other is from the dying husband's point of view, and then the instrumental section in the middle towards the end of the song, that is from the unborn child's point of view.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it's a really sad song actually, but
Yeah.
There was an unborn child. The wife was actually expecting when this
yeah, the
happened.
wife was, yeah.
Wow.
So they Ada wrote that song about that.
That's amazing. And we're going to leave the whole song for our viewers to listen to at the end of this
Nice.
interview, so you get the full, all three viewpoints.
Hmm.
Any closing questions, Ambi, or comments?
Well, just maybe one,
Mhm.
which is, Ash, in your article, you said that as far as you're concerned, our performers here are world class. We have world class performers here.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
unfortunately, they're not given the opportunities, right? That others, I mean, even
Yeah.
Malaysians do for all the Western artists, etc. So, do you want to just close off on what are your hopes in relation to that? and
The
maybe,
future of music in Malaysia. Huh?
future of our music in Malaysia.
I think my hopes have always been the same. It always, I hope that Malaysian people, the audience, stopped viewing Malaysian art as subpar as compared to the Western world, or even our neighbors, Thailand, Singapore. There's such a class divide over there in terms of artistic quality and integrity that people seem to always miss the country in between Thailand and Singapore. You know, and it doesn't help that we always get screwed over by the government in terms of you can't do this festival, you can't have this band coming here, things like that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
in terms of us being world class, we Malaysia is such a cultural melting pot,
Yes.
and not only in terms of race or things like that, but in terms of everything from musical culture to TV and everything. And I feel we as a society are much more adept at absorbing information and absorbing knowledge and style choices in terms of music, as compared to, let's say, someone from a Western country who might not even have heard of Carnatic music before. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mm.
And the thing is, for us, we might not know what it's called. We might not know that Carnatic music is classical music like Zakir Hussain or things like that. But without a doubt, someone even in the most suburban village in some area in Malaysia would definitely have heard it. When they hear it, they know that, oh, okay, I think I know what this is. I just don't know what it's called. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And
Good
therefore,
point.
talent is everywhere. Talent can come from the most unlikely of places in this country, and we are world class because of our ability to adapt to all these things. And if imagine what it would be like if we had actual support in terms of financial support, and not only financial support, but support to get out of Malaysia, support to bring our art and our work to the Western world, to the rest of the world. And
International
it's
arena festivals and so
yeah,
on.
yeah. And if we had that support and we didn't have to think twice about whether can our work go out, if we didn't have to think twice about it, everybody would be working towards getting stuff out there.
And it's
Yeah.
not just support, it's respect, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
artists and musicians need to be respected for what they do, which sometimes.
We're not. Simple and easy, we're not.
I hope that will come to be, and perhaps that could be a silver lining of COVID, that people start realizing what an important role musicians and
Yeah.
artists like you play in their lives.
I hope so
With that,
too.
Ashwin, I think we need to close and say thank you so much for joining us on
problem.
this podcast.
Thanks so much, Ash. Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
thanks.
All the best. That was a great interview. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you so much to our viewers for joining us on Boleh the podcast with our guest Ashwin Gobinath. Thank you to Khadija Haq, who's been doing the tech stuff and the research for the show. And we leave you now with Nadir and Ashwin Gobinath's beautiful piece, Nafas, that we talked about earlier. We'll give you the whole piece so you get to hear all the three perspectives of this song. And please enjoy, and see you next time on Boleh the podcast.
Fadi, from here do I take from here? Hold on.
Okay, ready? Right.
Okay, band ready? Camera rolling. Take C. Action.
Merenung ke matanya, kulihat kau di sana, menyentuh jiwaku, meruntunkan oh hatiku. Oh, ku kenang saat indah menantikan kehadirannya, namun kau pergi meninggalkanku sendiri. Oh, harus bagaimana nak ku teruskan hidupku ini? Harus bagaimana nak ku hadapi? Wajahmu selalu menghantui derai air mataku, kisahmu selalu menang.